This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone and welcome to this week's episode of All Time 11 right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host. This week I'm joined by the former Raith, Motherwell and Hearts player Kevin Twaddle. Kevin, thanks very much for coming on, mate. It's a pleasure to have you on.
No problem whatsoever. Pleasure to come on and do my top 11.
How are we doing it? What's your plan? How are you going to do it? Like, is it players you played with or players you played against?
It will be a mix of, well, it's not really a mix. One player I've played with and the rest are players I've played against.
Brilliant. Are you putting yourself in?
No.
Brilliant.
There's a lot better players than me.
Brilliant. What, just as well, just before we start, like, what was your kind of best time of your career? Like, what would you say was your best spell you enjoyed the most?
Obviously, my time would be at Motherwell. Spent a lot of years there. Although, to be honest, we had the 2 good years at St Johnstone, a year at Raith. I've got on really well at all the clubs I've been at, to be fair. St Johnstone, Hearts nightmare. So it's been Motherwell would be probably my best time playing against the Premier League captain in the club and stuff like that. So I'd definitely say Motherwell.
Brilliant. Just before we make a start, what's your formation?
My formation would be a 4-4-2.
Is that just the system you always love playing?
Not really, just to fit my good players in.
Brilliant. Let's make a start. Who we got between the sticks?
I think there was only one person, even whether I'd played well or played against him, I was lucky enough to have played with him for a number of years. It was Andy Gorham.
Right, okay.
For me, he was just he was a wonderful human being away from football as well. A lot of people didn't get to see kind of a lot of the stuff that goes on, and he gets labelled with a lot of stuff. But to me, and my family and stuff like that, when I first got into Motherwell, I was coming from smaller clubs, and he was an amazing guy. But what a wonderful goalkeeper! Even in training, the study set was just phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. See, as he got older, do you think he kind of dropped it anyway, or do you think he was the same as he was at Rangers, just one of the best shot stoppers of all time in Scottish football?
For me, I mean, when he was at training, there was a lot of times he wasn't there, and he was there. He was just phenomenal. He was a character as well. He was a brilliant guy. He was a really, really nice guy. I mean, I've kept in contact with him. And I've been, as I said, lucky enough, privileged to have played with him because, I mean, he was phenomenal. I can remember we played Parkhead, the game I scored and we won 1-0. Yeah. And everybody was waxing lyric about winning and the goal. Oh, my word. The only reason we won was he was unbelievable. I mean, I've seen him pulling off saves that were just... and even to now, I don't think... I mean, there's a lot of amazing goalkeepers, but there was... I mean, if he had a proper life away from football that lived like a football player, like a Craig Gordon, or... There was no one better than Andy.
Yeah, brilliant. We'll move on to right back. Who's there?
My right back would have been Fernando Rickson.
Right, okay.
Fernando Rickson was another really, really good player to play against as well. I had loads of battles with him. I was saying earlier to one of my friends that I gave him quite a few hard times going forward, but he used to demolish me going the other way because he was just a proper athlete. I mean, I wasn't an athlete. I was pretty good going forward, not so great defensively, but he had kind of the all-round game. He was a really good defender. Was really good going forward as well. And he was a really nice lad to play against as well, very friendly away from football and that as well. So he would definitely be up there to be my hardest right back I've probably ever played against.
It was just when he moved into midfield later on in his career, you just saw that his technical ability was way, way better than I ever thought it was as well. Left back, who's in there?
Left back would have been Arthur Newman. Now I kind of predominantly played on the on the right hand side, so I was always kind of against good left backs, and I've played up against a lot of good left backs, for Tosh McKinley, Jackie McNamara. To be fair, I've played against I've played against a good load, but I would definitely say that Arthur Newman was a quality defender. He never had what Rickson had gone forward. Although, didn't get me wrong, when he got forward, he was a world class defender for me. Very, very difficult to play against. Very clever, older, wiser head on his shoulders. So yeah, he would definitely be the top left back that I've ever played against.
Just when you say that, like, what was that Rangers team like to play against? See, when the Advocaat brought in the Dutch players, just how good were some of them? Like, just hard competition.
Phenomenal. Well, most of my team is full of Rangers and Celtic, to be fair. So I mean, I've been lucky enough, even when we played them at Raith, we've drew 2-2 with them, scored against them, but they were just always at Ibrox. You couldn't get anywhere near them. Like, they were so good. There's a lot of boys in my team that aren't in the team that were. I mean, you know, boys like Barry Ferguson. Boys always give him a hard time and say that you try going a park and play against him. The amount of time you had in the middle of the park, how gifted a footballer he was. He was phenomenal, and it's only got to even better midfielder. He was different class. But yeah, all the Dutch players come in. They were same at Celtic as well. They brought in all these foreign players. Yeah. I don't think Scottish football ever. I was lucky. I'll never ever get to see these kind of players again. I don't think.
Definitely. We'll move on to left centre half. Who's in there?
My left centre half. We go through my team from for Rangers to Celtic, and now we go to Clydebank. A boy called Kenny Brannigan.
Right, okay.
I can remember when I was at St Johnstone. You may laugh, by the way, but I'll tell you, I've never played against anybody more physical, more petrifying. I mean, most people I could kind of always run away from because I was kind of quick and I was kind of fly, good movement. And I mean, he wasn't even the most. He was so cumbersome. He wasn't quick. I tell you, he was a wonderful defender. And I tell you, like, when you're playing against him, he seemed like probably the horriblest person that you could get to meet and see away from football. He was unbelievable. What a lovely guy. But on the park, my God, he used to kick you up and down the place, to be fair. Brilliant. Just a typical win headers, solid defender. No niceness about him. He just was good at what he done. But definitely, I would say, and I've always said from my whole career, definitely the hardest centre half I've ever played against, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Who partners him on the right hand side?
On the right hand side, I mean, there's been loads, to be honest with you. There's been a lot of good centre halves I've played against, but I put in somebody that I played with that I thought was a boy called Danny Griffin, who I was at St Johnstone with. Centre half, was linked to Liverpool, loads of big clubs, got a bad injury. He knocked back Liverpool to stay where he was because he wanted growth. Paul Sturridge could say to him, staying here would be, and probably one of the crazy decisions I've ever seen in my life. But what a wonderful player, young kid, had so much ability on the ball, so gifted. And our boy that you could have put in the centre of the park, and would have stuck out in the centre of the park. He was that good. Definitely, apart from maybe James McFadden, the best young kid I've played against.
Really?
Played with. Yeah, that good.
Do you think? Well, see, when he got his bad injury, do you think that kind of halted his career a bit?
Definitely. He was a phenomenal player, great prospect. Fitted in the first team there at all. He was a Northern Ireland international as well. The injury obviously, but I mean, no taking the chances. In football, there's no loyalty in football, and this staying at clubs and obviously prolonging your career, getting more games, and when clubs like Liverpool and things like that come in for you. And I think he's the only person I've known through my whole career that's had the opportunity to go to the heights and never took them to kind of try build up his kind of game time and his his experience of playing against first team players and stuff like that. So for me, a bit crazy, but what a wonderful player.
Brilliant.
Nice lad as well.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. That's a pretty solid defence so far. I would say that there's no many goals can get in that team.
Well, they're all gifted. They could all go forward and they really well going forward. Apart from Kenny Brannigan, he would just hold the ship at the back.
Brilliant. We'll move on to midfield. Who have we got on the right hand side?
On the right hand side of midfield, my right and my left are probably the two best players wide players that I've ever would have been Loudrop on one side and DeCanio on the other side.
Right.
Loudrop, I can remember I signed with Raith, and a big boy, Davy Craig, signed with Raith to me at the same time, and I really rated Davy Craig. I thought he would go to the Stars as well. Great player, great lad. And I can remember him making his debut at Ibrox, and my word, he could have went back later on at night and corkscrewed him at the ground. He got absolutely... He just got... Loud was unbelievable. The two of them were so gifted that even when you're tracking back to mark them, they were gifted. You know, when somebody's running down the line and they're going to cross the ball, and then you jump up to try stop it and cross it, and before you know it, they've ran inside you and away through goals. They were tremendous finishers, tremendous players. They just lit up. What I love about football is the two of them they were obviously supporters' dreams there. They were exciting. They were what I wanted to try model Mac in the game on. So Loudrop would have been my right midfielder. It'd be a country mile.
Mm-hmm. Did you not get the feeling with Loudrop though, like how tall he was, like what he could do? Did you always find that weird how tall he was?
Scary. See the amount of people that thought Loudrop, by the way, he was built like a tank as well.
Was he?
He was built like a tank, and he was so tall, it was unbelievable. But I always used to think, like, and even when you're talking to people now, people would say that he was smaller, and he's built like a tank, and he was over 6 foot. He was class. Both feet were just mesmerising. As I said, as a winger, they were kind of people I idolised, like him and DeCanio, and getting to play against them was different class. So for me, Loudrop would have been up there for sure. Definitely best right midfielder I've seen.
Yeah, and what was special about DeCanio as well? Like, just obviously he was only here for a season, I think it was, but just what a season it was.
It was just it was just so different to anybody that you play. He was a really, well, by the way, really nice guy off the park. When you get to meet these boys like off the park and that as well. Really, really nice guy. But he was so unpredictable. He would be out the game, and before you knew it, he could just change the game in the blink of an eye. He was another one as well, though, that you never ever knew when he was got to cross or when he was got to shoot. It's a great thing to have. I always try to kind of do that myself, but I was never on their kind of level. But it's amazing amount of times that you maybe jump up and down in the air thinking that somebody's going to cross a ball and look so confident that we're going to cross it, yet it was away inside you and through goals. They were just, the two of them were, I mean, as a winger, they're boys for me that were, you'll not see in Scottish football for me anyway, in my time after I'm here, that the Canyon Loudrop will never be beat as wide players for me, not Scottish football.
Definitely. We'll move into centre midfield. Who have we got on the left-hand side?
I've got two midfielders. They both can kind of play anywhere in the centre of the park. One would be Paul Gascoigne, who is just he is by far the best player I've ever seen him played against. He was just a different world altogether. His amount of time on, even like at parks like Firth Park, I mean, it wasn't the greatest of pitches, and just his ability on the ball, his ability having so much time to play passes, his ability to make everybody laugh on the park as well he was just a funny individual. He had everything for me. And I loved him. I've had a lot of things in my life that I've been through and see a lot of what he's been through, and he was a genius, absolute genius, and you'll never see anybody for me anyway, as good as Paul Gascoigne. He was the ultimate professional. A wee funny story. We're playing at Raith over start, and before the game I went in. I used to go in all the time into the physio bit where there was a wee gym. Went in and he was in the gym, and I walked into the gym, and I think it's the only time I've ever been starstruck.
Really?
And I sat on the leagues. He was sitting talking about life and being up here, and I was sat and spoke for about 5 minutes, and it's something I'll never ever forget. And I went out on the park and scored to make it 1-0, and I was going back for centre. And I'll never ever forget him sitting centre and laughing, just the kind of guy he was. If I'd known you were going to score, I wouldn't have fucking spoke to you before the game. And that kind of summed him up. Sorry for swearing.
No, not at all.
Something that things like for me, small kid coming from a wee village and things like that you'll never ever forget. He was a wonderful human being, to be fair, and just
brilliant. Who partners him in the midfield?
Other centre midfielder, there's been loads that you could have picked for his. As I said, Barry Ferguson was a wonderful player. But my pick, Paul Lambert's your pick. when you played against Celtic at Parkhead, pretty much all the time, he was the kind of orchestrator, everything that went on. He would either drop in, take the ball, make them play. He just made them tick. His influence with his mouth as well, the way he used to speak to people. He was a perfect captain. Seemed a really great lad away from football, really good lad, and amongst all the Celtic boys. So gifted as well. His passing range was tremendous, but he used to really get fired in as well.
Was his leadership qualities just different class?
He was physical.
Was his leadership qualities just brilliant?
His leadership class, that's what I'm saying. He was a perfect captain. I think as a captain, you've got to be respected for your players. You've got to be, I think everybody respect him, even players that played against him. But he was so good. He was so good passing the ball, but physically good as well. But he was, proper leader. He had everybody constantly shouting, talking constantly. So for me, he would probably be the captain of the team if it wasn't for Kenny Brannigan.
Yeah, were you surprised he stayed so long in Scotland? Like, were you surprised he never got a big move?
No, listen, he was loved at Celtic. I think obviously the grass is never always greener on our side as well. He fitted into a perfect team. He had boys running about him that kind of done all the stuff that maybe some of the stuff he couldn't do. He never had amazing legs, or didn't get us wrong, he got about the park, but he had boys running about him that were. It was just a perfect fit for Celtic, to be fair. Listen, there's no many bigger clubs in Celtic, to be honest with you. Let's be honest, Celtic and Rangers, when you're in Scottish football, you go down south, there's only a few bigger clubs that are bigger as well. So.
Mm-hmm. And we'll move on to what I think would be I think it probably would be the hardest choice for you. Who would be the two strikers? We'll start with the first one. Who we got in the first striker position?
Well, tough to say first and foremost as well. Boys I've played with that were different class as well. Don Goodman, Lee McCulloch was a fantastic player. Lee John Spencer was different class. I mean, you see why he'd been away and played at Chelsea. But for me, Henrik Larsson was a different world altogether. He just was so. I mean, Van Hooijdonk. There's loads of players that played up front and these kind of time, foreign boys that came in, but Larsson was a complete package. He was quite tall as well. People used to think he was quite small. He was good in the air. He was kind of naughty when he wanted to be as well, but a wonderful turn of pace, wonderful skill, and just a phenomenal finisher. He was your perfect centre forward. So for me, Larsson, there's no many. I don't think you'll see many Larssons in Scottish football ever again, to be honest with you.
And who was he up against? See when you were playing with him, like, who was he up against when he was playing? Did he just give him a torrid time?
I mean, every time can be even like boys like when Jed Brannan got put back at centre half. Jed was a wonderful player as well, centre midfielder. Put back at centre half, Henrik Larsson was so much more clever than anybody I've played against. His movement, it was just phenomenal. How quick he was over a certain amount of. You do loads of finishing, crossing and finish goals when you're training and stuff like that. And in games, it's hard to bring into games, but for him, he just made it look so easy. His movement, his finishing was top notch as well. But a lot of good defenders, Sean Teals, boys that have played at good levels, Aston Villas, and he just made them look so ordinary.
And partner him, who's partnering Henrik Larsson up front?
Partner for him would have been Mark Viduka.
Really?
He made his debut. We played Celtic in the Scottish Cup when I was at Morton, and he made his debut in that game and scored. And I mean, he looked like a big lump of wood. But I mean, his touch, his strength, his finishing was different class. He didn't look like he was such a different player to Henrik Larsson, but he had so many amazing qualities. Top notch striker, great finisher, but really strong. I mean, I've seen him playing against boys as well that were big, strong defenders. He just he ragdolled absolutely everybody he played against, and he was, as I said, a wonderful finisher as well. Really good in the air as well. Tremendous touch for a big boy. I mean, he was big and he was big made as well, but great touch for a big lad as well.
Yeah. So out of that whole team, like, what was the kind of hardest decision? How did you feel was the one that was it Andy that kind of just missed the cut that you felt kind of feel hard done by? Like,
I mean, I mean, Andy Gorham's the one person that I couldn't change the oil up, to be honest with you. Andy Gorham's is the best goalie I've ever seen. I've been lucky enough to have Stefan Klosses and all these boys that are. But no, there was just nobody like Andy Gorham. There's a lot of positions, obviously. There's a lot of boys I've played with as well. Keith Wright's a legend as well. Keith played with me for a good period of time later on in his career, but he's a wonderful striker. Reid Dargo was a young kid coming through at Raith, which was a brilliant spell. But all over the park. I mean, I was lucky to play with Jed Brannan's, like Don Goodman's, wee John Spencer's, a lot of good players. But I mean, these boys were just a different planet then, and that I've played with, to be honest with you. For me, they were probably the only one that I would say Barry Ferguson and Paul Lambert. Barry Ferguson was different class as well. So he's probably the hardest one all them not to put in. It'd probably be him.
Brilliant. Kevin, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, mate. I can't thank you enough for doing it. I've really enjoyed it.
Much appreciated. Listen, I'm looking forward to hearing it when it comes out, so let us know when it comes out.
Brilliant, mate. Thanks very much.
Super, thanks very much, guys. Thanks, man.